it speaks a lot to me, in my opinion, that you have a coach like a Pete Carroll who says, I want that guy, the guy that I had back there that played for me and not everybody else thought highly of him. I want him over here. It's different from some of these free agent moves where you have the coaching staff is still there and they're like, we don't really want this guy. And then another coach like, well, I'll roll the dice on this guy. Let's see what he can do. Maybe he can bring some positives to me. Here you have the coach left. Well, not through his own decision, but he's now in Las Vegas and he wants his old quarterback. So to me, that speaks a little bit about what Pete Carroll believes that Geno Smith is going to bring to the table. And I'm excited for the upside that he will bring for the Raiders, because it is a better quarterback than they've seen in recent times. I mean, their best quarterback was the up and down years of Derek Carr, who obviously had some limitations there himself. So it's going to be interesting to see. They still have a lot of work to do for the Raiders, no doubt about it. But I agree with you, Ray. I think that was a good move for the Raiders.
And I think from a fantasy perspective, Rich, something people are going to get caught up on here, because the Raiders' best offensive player is Brock Bowers, even coming off, even as a rookie, he was their best offensive player. They obviously have Jacoby Myers. We kind of assume they're going to add a wide receiver. And so we'll kind of see kind of where this goes. But Brock Bowers is their best player. Geno Smith has not traditionally thrown a ton to the tight end. He's also thrown a lot short. I referenced in the article I wrote about Geno Smith his accuracy statistics, which are great. His charted off-target throw rate is among the best in the NFL. But some of that could be explained because he didn't really push the ball down the field in Seattle. And again, there are mitigating circumstances there. The offensive line was bad. It was really bad. It didn't give him a lot of time. He was working with what was, available to him. And so I think there's going to be a lot of like this is who Geno Smith, these are his tendencies thing, to make cases about Jacoby Myers, make cases about Brock Bowers, make cases about the offense in general. But like ultimately, maybe Geno Smith wasn't throwing to tight ends because he didn't have a tight end that he trusted to throw to, or because the Seahawks' best players were on the outside. And I think a lot of that really gets overblown. What's your kind of take on it? Like, are you worried at all about Brock Bowers because of Geno Smith's pass, or like, is Brock Bowers the best player, the ball's going to find him? Or where do you kind of fall in that?
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, my early days of doing stuff with like coordinators and players, like the ball goes to the best players on the football field, like whether that be on a season total or like you reduce it to like a game sample or per play sample. And Brock Bowers is one of the best players, the best offensive player on the Raiders. Like he's going to be targeted. We've had so many iterations of this type of story of like QB doesn't target this position. Well, yeah, because he didn't play with any good players at that position, or offensive coordinator didn't do this. Remember, it was a thing for Kyle Shanahan. He only throws the X receivers. He doesn't use a tight end. Well, guess what? He got George Kittle, and George Kittle started balling out. So I do think that Brock Bowers is going to lead the Raiders in targets. He's obviously the betting favorite. The Raiders are another one of those teams just in a really, kind of tough spot. I mean, you want to field a competitive team. You're trying to win games. You hired a 73-year-old head coach. He's going to be 74 at the start of the season. You're trying to win games. So you get a 35-year-old quarterback. It's really harder for, I think, when you look at the Raiders side of this versus which I assume will go to the Seattle side and what they're doing because of just the AFC in general. I mean, if you're in the AFC and you're building a team that you want to be competitive, you have to prepare of building your team to beat two of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow every season. As just the like, I have to get through at least two of these guys to make a Super Bowl. That's just the way the AFC landscape is in a given year. And you give up a third round pick to do that. It is quite a lot for a 35-year-old quarterback. I think the Raiders will be competitive, but they're in a nightmare spot here. I mean, every team in their division made the playoffs last year. They also face the Eagles, the Commanders, and the Texans, who were playoff teams a year ago. The Bears and Colts could be on the come up. They've got other teams like, that are wild cards like Cleveland and Dallas, like we don't believe are special teams, but are capable teams, especially in context of the Raiders. So this feels like an improvement, definitely objectively, to go to Geno Smith, but this feels like a complete 40-degree day in terms of construct of like what's going to happen with the Raiders as a franchise.